Hello, everybody. This is your host, Blake Wright, with Central Valley Charter Schools, and you're listening to your Transition Podcast. I'm joined by my wholesome snow host, Jonathan Quijas. So say hello to everyone, Jonathan.
What's up, everybody? I'm sure you know Blake and I, we like the cheese. We're a little bit cheesy, but that's right. That's what Christmas is all about, or the holiday, whatever you celebrate. Or if you don't celebrate anything, just winter break is a celebration. And it's time for cheesiness. So I hope everybody is ready. Holiday or winter break. I think Santa's helpers have been busy and whipped us up one of the best gifts we can give to our listeners today, and that's an interview with our amazing and our very own Dr. Mitch.
Yeah, no, the best gift is right. We love having Dr. Mitch here in the studio. We got it all decorated for him. He's always been such an incredible source of information and resources, and just a great time to have here for our audience. And I can't wait to see what he has to say this time.
Yeah, so glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Good to have you. I can't remember correctly I believe this is the third time with you gracing our studios. We may have to make you an honorary co-host at this rate. We just love having you on, Dr. Mitch.
Oh, hey, appreciate it. And co-host me up, put a picture on the wall for me there. That sounds fantastic.
I couldn't agree more. I love that. I might have to put you up on the wall over here after we take your stockings down. I love it. So cool. Let's not keep everyone waiting anymore then, though, shall we?
Yeah, I agree. We're just gonna jump right into just some of these lingering discussion questions and points that we have to discuss with Dr. Mitch. So we're gonna jump right in. Welcome, Dr. Mitch. It's so good to have you here in studio once again with us, and for the first time this new school year. How do you like the new studio? We, kind of put a holiday twist to it, and we've got the leather couch and the soundboard. How do you like it?
Oh, it's snazzy. I like the Christmas tree. It looks like we're upgrading this studio like we're upgrading our SEL services. So right on point.
I love that. It's not quite as nice as our cabin getaway that we were in last year, but it's definitely up there. I love it. So, Dr. Mitch, we have a lot of really amazing and very serious questions for you today. But before we get into it, I just kind of wanted to ask you a quick question in the spirit of the holidays. Do you, and you too, Jonathan, do you guys have any, or used to have any fun or weird traditions in your family for the holidays? So like, for example, for me growing up, on Christmas Eve, my family would always have pizza for dinner. I don't know if I've ever had anything other than pizza on Christmas Eve. And I couldn't imagine having anything else. So what do you think?
Well, if I think back to the good old days, I remember my mom was quite religious. And so I always remember Christmas Eve, she'd have a cupcake out with a candle burning. And, as a kid, I'm looking at Santa and all this, kind of secular stuff going on. And she had this one cupcake, kind of lit for Jesus. And I remember as a kid thinking, what is this about? And finally, as I've grown up, wondering the sagey wisdom of it all. But I do remember a cupcake for Jesus's birthday really late at night. And so as a kid, I wasn't sure what that was.
I love it. Okay, so Blake, my family, we used to call our family the United Nations family. So we have a little bit of everything. So my mom, she's Jewish and she's from Brooklyn. And so Chinese, so we would celebrate Hanukkah. And my dad is Protestant and he's from Berkeley. So like two different worlds coming together. In Brooklyn, Chinese food is a big deal, like during Christmas time or during the winter holiday. So we would celebrate Hanukkah, and then we would also as for Christmas, we would have Mexican food. We'd have my dad's Mexican, so we would have tamales. So a tradition would be Chinese food for one night, and then we would have tamales, and then we would also have a roast. So it was kind of like this hybrid. And then we'd also love to walk around the park with my family. So that was what our winter holiday looked like, pretty much.
Oh, I love it. That sounds amazing. No, thank you both so much for sharing a little bit with me and indulging me in my holiday spirit. I love it. So, all right, Jonathan, would you like to kick us off with our real questions?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I thought those were the real questions.
Fair enough.
I mean, who doesn't want to talk about tamales, right?
Oh yeah.
Always a good subject.
Yeah, we're going to jump right in. And we have a lot of new students this year. And just as a refresher to students who are returning and who have been with Central Valley Schools, charter schools for some time. Dr. Mitch, can you just share with us what are SEL Tier 3 services?
Yeah, what that stands for is social emotional learning. And it's really a preventative framework where we try to facilitate good social interactions, self-management, self-awareness, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and as I mentioned before, kind of the social side. But what it is we believe and know that human beings not only have academic competencies to make it out in the world, we got to be smart, that's true, but we also have to get along with everybody and grow. And so SEL is a way that we help children, adults, everybody take those skills and practice them and move them to where they're competent with it. So that way we don't see mental health issues down the road or anything along those lines. We assume that these are skills and not disease states. We believe if someone's depressed, they may have some self-management issues, some self-awareness issues, and we kind of work through that. So it's a way of practicing behavioral competencies, skills to get better on that front. So by the time you graduate here at the charter schools, you'll be a well-rounded individual and be able to be truly successful. So we have really worked hard over the last couple of years to make sure that those services are well thought out and available.
Thank you so much for that thorough introduction. Blake, you want to take the next one?
Yeah, I'd love to. Okay, so Dr. Mitch kind of reads out as ERMS, but what are the ERMHS services we offer?
Yes, the acronym soup of education. ERMS stands for Educationally Related Mental Health Services. And what those are, they're very narrow services, usually nested in fact, always nested in an IEP in special education. And this is for students typically who qualify for special education services under emotional disturbance, although anybody can get them, but typically we see it there. And what those are usually one-on-one services with a mental health clinician working on behavioral competencies too, but sometimes, looking at disease states like depression, anxiety, etc. And the goal there is to make sure that any of these mental health issues that might be present do not get in the way of learning. And these are specifically for mental health issues that are related to educational deficits. So if you aren't doing well out in the community and at home, but you got straight A's at school, these services would not be for you. It's really only looking at educational achievement. So they're very, very narrow, and they're very, very targeted as well. They should be pretty rare service.
Awesome. That's very, enlightening for not only us, but our listeners as well. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I have a follow-up question, Dr. Mitch. Can you share with our audience the difference between the two?
Yeah, it's quite a big difference, and it's the same kind of difference you see with a 504 plan, which is a general education plan that goes on forever. It doesn't stop when school stops. It's very broad. It looks at education, it looks at vocation, it looks at all kinds of things. And then special education, which is extremely, extremely narrow. So SEL and ERMS is like that from a behavioral standpoint. SEL really is for all kids, whether you have an IEP or not. You don't have to have necessarily a struggle that's only about education, although we do look at that closely. It could be getting you through a tough time like bereavement. It could be that, hey, you're not getting along with friends, and we don't think you need to have a diagnosis of anxiety or depression or anything like that just to get some help with friends. So SEL is far broader. If it was a pyramid, it'd be like the 2/3 of a pyramid rather than the very tip, which is what ERMS kind of focuses on. ERMS focuses on kids in special education that have very narrow needs. So the broadness is the true difference. And you do not have to qualify for any disability services like for an IEP. It's for anybody, and it's more of a coaching thing. It's more going to the batting practices and then going into the game. That's kind of where SEL is at. And for ERM services, it's you might have a very specialized coach working for maybe even a long time, where SEL is kind of more like a pit stop. You get in, we work on you, we get you out, you get confident, and you realize, hey, you know what? Nothing was wrong with me. I just needed some practice.
Awesome. That's amazing. Thank you so much for kind of clarifying that. That's great. And it makes a lot of sense. And so with the SEL Tier 3 services, however, what happens once they start that? And will a student need those SEL Tier 3 services for a long time?
The first part of your question, typically we get a referral in through our SEL coordinator, and that comes from parents, from teachers. Students can self-refer, peers can refer. Usually there's a referral, we take a look at the need and then match that need up with a clinician, a school-based kind of mental health clinician. We use third-year PhD level graduate students to do that work. I brought them in from Alliant University. We have 12 to 15 of them available. And so we will do usually one-on-one services, 30 minutes a week. And the goal is to go for about 12 to 16 weeks. And it's something we call response to intervention. We give the intervention, see how a kid responds, and what to do next. But the service definitely is meant to be like a pit stop. When you see a car come in, they need to get back out into the race. Otherwise, you can do them harm. While the pit stop feels safe, if you can't go back out and race, that safety has actually harmed you. So we usually like to have a deadline on it. Sometimes kids will go longer, and that's no problem, but every 12 to 16 weeks, we really want to make a decision on whether this is something we should continue and get them the help that they need and get them back out into the race, because struggle is just a part of the race, and it's not something to necessarily fear or a sign that something's wrong. In fact, you're just making adjustments. So a long time means your clinician's either not that good or you need a higher level of service.
Thanks for sharing. I'm just wanting to take it a step further. A common question we get is, what is clinical versus school-based services? Dr. Mitch, can you share a little bit more about that?
Oh, definitely. And psychology is its own worst enemy in this way. Psychology, by definition, is very secretive. They take confidentiality extremely serious. In fact, there's only a few places out in the world or out in the United States, that is, that really covet confidentiality. That's law, doctors, of course, mental health, and the clergy. And so it's very, very careful, very carefully protected. So that's nice in one way, but the negative to it is no one really knows what we do. And so the difference is really for school-based services versus community-based services is twofold. One, school psychologists, they don't diagnose. They typically, I'm a school psychologist and also a clinical person, so, got both worlds. But in the school side, you're really trained to look at 13 areas of disabilities that a student could qualify, and then all the services that come with that, including consultation, risk assessment, all that stuff. But it's generally focused on getting in and managing special education for the most part. Of course, school psychologists do other things, but that's the big lion's share, and they cannot diagnose. Out in the community, instead of 13 services you're looking at, clinically speaking, you can do a wide variety. So the DSM-5, which is the kind of cookbook of diagnoses, there's over 300 of them. So out in the community, you're trained to really dial down to one of those disorders, come up with a treatment plan, and then work that treatment plan. And the community is based not just on what's happening educationally, but again, what's happening with your job, your relationships, your own self-image, all these things. It's very broad. And it typically looks at a disease model where there's something wrong with you and we're here to fix you. That's typically the main difference. Educational services, what's also really nice about them is that they're preventative in nature. So a lot of kids come through schools. It's by law they have to be there. So it's a great place for schools to catch maybe some red flags or solve some problems earlier, so they don't need services in the community later. It's extremely rare that we have SEL services available at schools. They tend to be very expensive and they don't know how to integrate. And the charter schools here have been just incredible, leadership wise and parent wise, and everybody coming together to try to really integrate it in. And so in the community, they tend to be a little more standoffish, so they're kind of islands to themselves. And right now, wait lists at most places for individual therapy is 4 to 6 months. So the community is struggling to provide the service. So that's the main difference. It's the scope and the disease medical model. That's typically what the main differences are.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. Mitch. And so as we kind of begin to wrap some of this amazing interview up, what are some unique things, or what is unique about our virtual setting of our school, and how that works with these types of services?
Oh, it's pretty amazing. There are some services that there are some individuals. Typically, we see this with people with schizophrenia or very, very rare but difficult disorders that you won't see in childhood. There are some services that one-on-one in person would be a better fit for, but generally speaking, the flexibility and the ability to bring up resources right there on the screen, and to even have group members come in, other members, family members come in with permission, of course. The flexibility is probably, I think, the top part, the top benefit. The other benefit I see for especially younger people is that, and I guess your guys' age too, I assume, social media and the interaction of yourself on a phone or on a laptop is so integrated now that kids probably socialize way more virtually than they do in person compared to historical standards. So this virtual platform matches kind of the everyday life of the younger people a little bit better. So I think they're more inclined to engage with it. And so those two factors together have made virtual services really, really blow up. They're very popular. You see it in all the insurance companies offer this stuff now. And so the fact that the charter schools here are already set up that way, we're way ahead of the curve, and we're able to access people more. What do you do if you live in the middle of the country there and there's no services at all? Well, hey, we can pipe you right in. So it's really helped access, and I think the credibility as well, because it's matching the way people are interacting nowadays. And so at the school level, we're not seeing problems that typically will get people into ERs or 5150. It's pretty rare. These are mild to medium presentations, and so the tele platform is very appropriate for that.
So much, Dr. Mitch. I always learn so much when you sit down and you share with Blake and myself and our listeners. Just want to follow it up with the last question. Where can, so that parent or that student who's listening, where can they learn more about what you've shared today?
Yeah, I mean, going to the website, it was going to be the best place to kind of get descriptions of services and see what's available to offer. We meet all the time to continue to expand these services, but the website's the best place for the summary of those services and the things that we offer that are really, really in place and ready to be delivered. I would just want to mention we probably served well over 100 people last year, which is unheard of. That's the size of a clinic. So we are very excited to offer these services, and we'll continue to do so.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Mitch, for all your answers today. And I'll make sure to put the link to that site down in the description. And it's always such a pleasure to have you here, Dr. Mitch, here in the studio with us. And just from all of us, I just hope you have a wonderful holiday season, a very happy new year. And we hope to see you back here in studio next calendar year. Jonathan, anything?
Yeah, thank you so much. To echo what Blake said, Dr. Mitch, thank you for joining us here and for everything you and your team, everything that you guys do for our students, our staff, and our families. We're so lucky to have you, and you all are truly a gift to our school. And with that said, I just want to let our listeners know that concludes our your transition podcast. And thank you for tuning in. Be sure you get that hot cup of cocoa and you watch Elf, or I don't know, maybe It's a Wonderful Life. I'm on that kick right now. I love that movie. And so happy holidays. And we are excited to have you back next year. And so we'll see you next year.
Likewise, take care, Jonathan, Blake. It's my pleasure to be here.